Okay, we're live. Hello. We're here to talk about the 7.5 deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which is still a title that feels wrong in my mouth. I can't say it for whatever reason. But anyway, so that is why we're here tonight. We're going to be talking about our thoughts about the book. I have it over here. And I don't know what you guys thought, but for me, it was kind of a mess. Yes, Evelyn Hugo, every time, I have to remind myself of what the book is called. Hi, Dania. So, I'll wait a minute before I get into my big thoughts about the book, but I'll say that it's confusing. I have pages of notes that I now feel were a waste of my time. So, I don't know. I guess I should say I'm glad I've read it. It's a book that has intimidated me for a while. I've made it through. I did the thing, but did I enjoy it? I'm not sure how to answer that. But I was pleased to see that there are discussion questions in the back of the book. So I'm going to use those when we start our discussion part of this. So, but overall, I don't know. I gave it a 3-star. I gave it 3 stars as like a kindness to the book, to the author, because the writing was very good. I enjoyed the writing. It was readable, but just so confusing and convoluted. There was just too much of everything happening in this book. There was too many characters. There was too many things going on. And so many of them, I feel, were completely superfluous to the story. Why were they there? Did we really need that in the story? I don't think that we did. They didn't add anything overall. I think you could have taken out a good chunk of it and made it a tighter story, and it would have worked better. Yeah, Dania, I agree. I found the end better than the first 3/4 of the book or so. I spent the whole beginning just very confused and trying to figure out what was going on. And I had a moment where I kind of predicted the ending, but I didn't realize I'd predicted it. But I was just frustrated, and I said to myself, is this the bad place? Are they in the bad place? As the Good Place reference. And I kind of guessed right. It's not hell, but it's like hell in that they're being punished. And so I don't know. I did not understand how Aiden figured out the murder stuff. None of that made any sense to me. And I kind of feel like this book did the thing that I hate with mysteries, specifically Agatha Christie style mysteries, where you cannot figure out the puzzle. The author's holding a piece back, and so you can't figure it out until they give you the answer at the end. And I really don't like that. I like, if I'm going to read a mystery, which honestly is not my genre, I don't read a lot of mysteries, but when I do, I want to be able to play along and figure it out and feel like I have the ability to keep up with what's going on. This book took that from me, and I didn't have that. I could not figure out what was going on because there was just so much going on. There was just too much. That's going to be my complaint overall with this book, is there was just too much. Too many characters. There was no reason for that many characters. And so many of them had absolutely nothing to do with anything. In the end, the murder itself, they had nothing to do with. Why were they there? I don't know. It was too confusing. But I did write a whole bunch of notes trying to figure out what was going on. And making note of things that I thought might be important. I don't know why I thought they'd be important now. I had character names that I was listing out, trying to figure out who was the man in the plague mask, trying to figure out who was the footman. Why was I trying to figure out who the footman was? We never find out who he's just some random guy killing Like, I don't know who that was meant to be or why he was there. Was that just part of the prison scenario where, like, you've got a guy hunting you? I don't know. Baffling. So I don't know. Shall we just get into the questions and figure out what our thoughts are based on that? Like, I can't tell you a favorite character because I didn't like anybody because I didn't know who anyone was. I'm so glad that you loved it, Science Mama. And like I didn't like it. It was a very confusing story. You know, I tried to read it quickly. What I ended up having to do, I had to read the audiobook along with my eyeballs because I was just like not able to get through it as fast. Like, I can read fairly quickly when the story has a good pace, but I felt like the pace in this book got really bogged down in the middle. Like, the very beginning I thought was pretty good, and then just like, I don't know, it made me stall out, I think. And I think I got about 200 pages in and I went, I need the audiobook to help me get through this. And once I had the audiobook, I got through the last like 250 so pages in 2 nights. So like, it's doable to go through quickly, just not the way I was doing it. I think it didn't help that I was writing like all these notes because I had to like keep stopping and write down names because I was trying so hard to keep everyone straight. And in the end, I still, even with my lists and my notes, I still don't remember who everyone was and why they were there and what part they had to play. And it was just hard. It felt like he told Agatha Christie to hold his beer. Like he had something to do here. I did like the time loop aspect. I thought that was cool. And I liked where the story went overall. Like, I found that to be kind of interesting. I just wish that it hadn't been so convoluted. So let's go through the reading group guide in the back of the book. So it says, what or who do you think are the deaths in the 7.5 deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle? Where does a half death enter the narrative? I had to sit down and think on that one because I kept going in my head, like, we didn't actually see Evelyn die 7 times. Like, I get that he's there for the 8 days, and that makes sense because on the last one, like, she doesn't die because I don't know, but I could not figure out exactly what this meant. Are we talking about Evelyn's deaths? Are we talking about the fact that it's a loop? Or are we talking about the fact that other people are dying throughout the story? I did not keep track of who died and how many different people died. So maybe that was 7 deaths. I'm not sure. I will say that whole murder plot baffled me. Like, she's committing suicide. But is she? Like, I don't know what was going on there. I figured it out at the end because she explained it to me. But even after that, I was just like, hold on, back up. I had to go backwards and reread that. Books like this make me feel a little dumb. And I don't know. But let's go to the next question. The 7.5 deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle begins in a typically linear way and then shoots off in many different directions. How do the different narratives and perspectives enrich the story? I actually like all the bouncing around. I thought that was an interesting way to tell the story. I don't mind that. I like stories that jump around and tell the story in different ways. Like, I think that's interesting. But in this book, I think it kind of made it more confusing. It just added this other layer of like, what is happening right now? I don't know. Really, that's interesting that in the UK, it's just the 7 deaths. Why did they take off the half? Like, is there a reason? I don't understand that. That's weird. Or did they add the half? Is this a British author? Does anyone know? I don't know anything about the author. I was going to look that up and then I just never got around to it. But is Stuart Turton British? Or is he an American author? I didn't even look in the back to see if there was anything about the author. I know there's a conversation with the author, but I don't think that tells me anything about him. Oh, he lives in West London with his wife and daughter, so I guess he is British. So why, I wonder, in the American version, is it 7.5? Or did they do that just to make it a little bit less similar to the title of Evelyn Hugo, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo? I don't know. That's weird. Yeah, okay, Dania, thank you. That's what I was just wondering. It did, okay. Well, that makes sense, I guess, but still. I don't know. But anyway, the non-linear time story stuff usually doesn't bother me, but in this book, I didn't like it because I was already confused, and now you're just making me more confused. And I kept thinking to myself, like, how confusing was Anna's day? Because she didn't feel herself she was in the loop, but she herself only felt like she was living this one day and had no memory of the past days. So, like, how did she keep up with everything? I don't know. I know she had a notebook, and I felt just as crazy as she did with my notes. But, like, that whole scenario was just so weird, and I could not keep track of who was where and when. Like, I want to know what crazy murder board the author had as he was writing this story, because keeping track of everyone and where they were at all times, I don't know. I couldn't do it. Spencer, we're watching Stranger Things when I'm done with this. We haven't gotten to season 4 yet, and it's driving me crazy. So go enjoy Stranger Things. It's probably way more interesting than this. Okay, so the third question. Oh, I didn't finish talking about the second one. How did the different narratives and perspectives enrich the story? I don't know. I thought it was interesting how he explained that the further in he got in the loop, the more he could remember who he was, like the person he was inhabiting, and how their personality would shine through. That I thought was really neat. I don't know. I liked that. See, there were aspects of the story that I thought were good, which is why I gave it 3 stars and not like a 2, because it did aggravate me a lot of the time. But overall, I thought it had a lot of really cool elements happening. Like the writing style was great. I thought the whole idea of the time loop prison was very clever. And solving a mystery while in a time loop was also very clever. So I just thought those elements were cool. I just think the story could have been better if it had been cut down a bit. Okay, the third question says, the mystery and escape in Blackheath is set up like a puzzle, and the reader plays along with Aidan as he puts the solution together. Were there any pieces you couldn't find a place for? A lot. Honestly, I just found myself baffled the whole time. Like, how is he figuring this out? Like, how does he put this together? Because it did not make any sense to me. And there were characters in the story that I just don't understand why they were important overall. Aaron, it felt like all the pieces were thrown everywhere. Like someone shook them up in a box and just whipped them across the room, and you had to just like go scramble around and try to figure it out. But like, I don't know. There were characters in here that I just didn't think. And, you know, I was so confused. Like Ted Stanwin, for example, was a character that on second glance, like, was he necessary to the plot of the story? We spent a lot of time really focused on him, and I'm not sure why. Like, besides the fact that he had the secrets, like, what other purpose did he have? Could we have, like, condensed this by not having him there? And the footman killing people did not need to be there. Like, it was just another thing to, like, up the stakes. But we already had enough stakes. Like, I don't know that we needed the killer footman chasing people around. I don't know. Who else did I think was just like, why are you here? Gosh, there were so many characters. Like, I get that we needed different bodies to jump into, but what did Sebastian Bell offer us in this story? He had no purpose, none, except being the first body. Like, why? The butler. What was the butler's purpose in this story besides being a body for him to inhabit and be miserable? Like, there were just too many characters that I could not understand why they were here and what purpose they served in the story as a whole. I don't know. But that's just like me being nitpicky, I guess. Well, let's see. Question number 4. Aidan Bishop has a backstory that readers will never know in full. However, what we do know is there is plenty of revenge, cruelty, and questionable intentions wrapped up in who he was and why he entered Blackheath. With what you know about him, would you call him a hero? Why or why not? Okay. Here's my biggest beef overall with this story, is that we don't actually know anything, really, about our protagonist. We know the bodies he inhabits. We know his thoughts while he's in these bodies, but he doesn't know why he's there. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know where he came from. He doesn't know anything about himself, and we never learn anything about him. We're told at the end that he has this relationship with Annabelle, but we don't know what it is, and we don't know why it is. And I felt like I could not care about him as a person because I didn't know who he was. And we never got that. We never get to know who he is. And that bothers me because as a reader, I like to have a character to root for that I care about. And this book offered me absolutely nobody to care about because we didn't really get to know them as people, just as pieces on a chessboard, which I guess, maybe that's a mystery. Is that a thing with mysteries that I just I don't read mysteries enough, and maybe I'm not supposed to care, or I don't know. But that is a thing that really bugs me about this book, is that we are only given this tiny little bit about who Aidan is as a person, and that's it. That's all we get. I don't get that. So I can't say he's a hero because I don't know what he's doing here. Should he have released Anna? Because if we're told that she's this horrible person on the outside and that she belongs in the prison, why do we want her released? We don't really we don't know enough about Anna while she's in, because all we're seeing is the bits of her that Aidan sees. And so, is he a hero? I don't know. If she's this awful person, yeah, Aaron, Anna was some kind of mass murderer who killed his sister. So why was he so keen on letting her go free? I didn't get that. That part of the story didn't make sense to me. I could not get behind it. I don't think he's a hero because he didn't do anything very heroic. He just unleashed a mass murderer back into the world, and for what purpose? We don't even know if that's true or not, because this was such a weird mind twisty story. Is she a mass murderer, or is that just what he wants him to believe? I don't know. This book gives me such a headache. I don't know. But I can definitely say that no, I do not think Aidan was a hero, because I didn't think anything he did in this story was particularly heroic. I don't know. Number 5 says, why do you think the plague doctor wears that mask or that costume, and how does it affect his relationship with Aidan? Is the plague doctor really the good man that the voice in Aidan's head claims he is? I spent the whole book thinking that the plague doctor was either Daniel Coleridge or the footman in disguise. I didn't get what he was doing until the very end of the book when it was explained to me. because I just thought, oh, he's clearly like a villain of some kind. So if I wasn't to think that, then I think the writer maybe didn't do a good job of like laying that out for me, because I totally thought he was a villain. And it never occurred to me until the very end that he wasn't. So, no, I don't know that I saw him as the good man that the voice in Aiden's head claims that he was. I don't know. That didn't really make sense to me. Oh, goodness, Aaron, I would have DNF'd it if I wasn't hosting a book club for this. I got about 100 pages in when I started having my doubts about this book. And so, I don't know. I picked it for book club because this is one of those books that I think has been like really hyped. And a lot of people have talked about it and made me think that it would be a book that I would like. But yeah, I don't know. Yes, the second Plague Doctor with the tear made no sense at all. Who was that? And what was their purpose? What was the purpose? I don't think there was one. I think it was just not even a red herring. Like a red herring indicates that like I'm supposed to think there's somebody. This book, I don't know. I don't like feeling this confused. Like it makes me feel like I'm missing something, and I'm certainly not going to reread it to try to figure it out. Number 6, it says Annabelle Calker, or Anna, is unmasked as someone very different from whom Aiden believes her to be. What do you feel she did to deserve her time in Blackheath, and how do you think Aiden was able to forgive her? Well, all we're told is that she's a mass murderer and that she killed Aiden's sister. So that's the only information we get. And I don't know. I assume that that is what she is. But to be honest, like I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to think of Anna, because we're not really given enough information about who she is in the story. Like we're just like, he remembers her for some reason as who he latches himself onto. And he seems like he's trying to help her, but we don't know why or anything. Anomic says, wasn't it to show that there were other worlds or jail cells doing similar things? Maybe. If that was the case, perhaps, but I don't know. By that point in the story, there was just so much going on, and I was just so lost. So adding more things like that in, it's just like, I don't know. I'm wondering if this would have been easier to follow if it were like either a TV show or a movie. Probably a TV show. I think this would be impossible to film. There's just too much. But maybe if it was a TV show and like we had enough time to like focus on each character instead of like what we ended up with here, like if we had a face to help us keep track of who everyone is, I don't know. When there's this many characters, I almost think it would make more sense to be like a TV series or something, so that you have somebody to hold on to. Like there's a ton of characters in Game of Thrones, and I could still keep track of who everyone was, even when their names were similar. But this was too much. It was a lot to keep track of. I wonder if they are going to ever try to film this. I don't know. Is this filmable? Do you think this would work? Seeing as that you don't really know who your main character is because they're never in their own body. I don't know. It would be interesting to see if they ever do that, what it would look like. Number 7, were there any tactics Aiden didn't think of that could have solved the mystery of who killed Evelyn Hardcastle? And if you were in his shoes or his hosts, what would you have done differently? I don't know. Like, I couldn't even put myself into this story because there was too much going on and I didn't want to add to the confusion. I don't know. I'm trying to sit here and think, like, would I have been able to figure it out any faster? Honestly, I don't think so. I'm not great at mysteries anyway. Like, it's not a thing that I read much, and usually I don't know what's going on. I can't think of too many mysteries that I've read where I was able to like solve it early in the story. Like maybe once that's happened, Usually I'm just kind of there for the ride. So I don't know what I would do besides just be confused. Okay, this next question is interesting. The construct of Blackheath as a prison feels like something from the future. But do you feel this sort of punishment and possible redemption could one day be considered a viable solution for criminals? And what do you feel the advantages are, and in what ways could this be considered even more cruel than a standard incarceration sentence? Um, yeah, the setting of this book I found really interesting because it felt old fashioned. Like there's no specific time period given. But if I did Google it just to see, like, does anyone have a specific, like, when did this take place? And it just says 1920s. So not a specific time in the 20s, just like the 20s. So that was interesting. And I couldn't find too many clues in the story to like give me anything specific on that. Or maybe there were clues and I just missed them. But at the same time, the fact that it's a time loop prison makes me think future. So the whole concept there I thought was really interesting. Do I think this could be a thing we ever do in the future? I don't know, maybe, but I don't know. Would this be better? I'm not sure. It would be a more interesting time in prison, I guess, if you were like trying to solve murders in a time loop. But what advantages does it have? Well, it would keep them busy, giving them something to do. Besides that, I don't know. Would this redeem them? See, the redemption arc scenario, I don't know if that works because we don't really know who Anna was before. So how do we know she's been redeemed? We're not given enough with her character or enough time with her character to have any idea about like what she was like before and what she's like now and how that's different. So how do we know that she's been redeemed? We can't. So that part of it, I just feel didn't work story-wise. Like I needed more character development overall, and we're not given that in this story. Oh, Aaron, yeah, that's what I was wondering too. Once we're told it's a prison, are we to believe that all of those characters are in a time loop? Like, who's in the time loop besides Aiden and whoever's in Daniel Coleridge? We don't know. Or in Anna, I mean, yeah. So, like, I don't know who else is trapped. We're not really told who's inhabiting who and when and why. So, like, I don't know. It's confusing. And again, like, I kind of wish, not that I think this should be longer, but I kind of wish we could have gotten some more background on who everyone is and what they're doing there and why. And, like, I kept comparing it in my head to The Good Place. I don't know if you guys have seen The Good Place, and I don't really want to spoil it for people. But, like, there are people there who are meant to be there, and then there are people there who, like, work there. And I'm wondering how many people in this time loop work there, and how many people were in the loop, like, as punishment. We're not really sure because we're not given any information about that. Besides that, we know that there are other people in the loop besides Aiden. So I don't know. That is interesting though. Like, as a prison sentence, you're trapped here until you solve the murder. Like, I would be there forever because I don't know that I ever would have figured it out. But that is an interesting concept. I mean, I thought that was very cool. No character is ever what they first appear, something Aiden remarks on a few times throughout the novel. Who is your favorite character and why did they resonate with you particularly? Ugh, see, no, I don't think I had a favorite character because, again, I don't know anybody very well in this story. I had characters that I distinctly didn't like, Like, what was his name? Derby? Jonathan Derby was not a good guy. Did not like him. But like for the most part, we don't really know anybody well enough to like anyone. I couldn't even latch on to Aiden because I don't know who Aiden is, like as a person. I don't know if he made a terrible decision or a good decision at the end. Which character undergoes the biggest transformation, and were there any characters you started off liking or loathing and changed your opinion? No, not at all. Like, this is one of those rare books for me where I don't like anybody, and none of the characters made a big enough impression on me to care what happened to them. Was there one host who felt more important, or can you see how each character, despite their vices, provided something crucial to the story? Let me go back to my notes here. Who were the hosts? I think the most, like, the hosts that did the most, like, research and figuring out the murder and all of that, I think the ones who did the most effort was probably Lord Ravencourt, Edward Dance, and Jim Rashton. Like, I think those three probably did the most legwork on solving the mystery. But were they more important than any of the others? I don't know. Like, I still don't quite understand who Sebastian Bell was meant to be within the story. Like, he didn't seem to serve a real purpose besides just being there. So I don't know. This story was a lot. So yeah, overall, I just thought this was a very confusing, strange time. Am I glad I read it? I guess so. Would I want to read it again? No. I don't know. I hear that the author has another book out, The Devil in the Dark Water or something like that. I'm probably getting that wrong. It's supposed to be better. Is it? I don't know. I might be tempted at some point to pick that up. But this book, I'm glad it's done and over, and I'm moving on now and getting on with my life. So, does anyone have any other thoughts about the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle that they want to talk about or mention? And I'll point out that our book for this month is Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. We're going to be reading this for the month of June, right? Yes, June. Like, what month is it? And so I'm thinking this is going to be a better read. Definitely less confusing. So I'm excited for that. Yeah, Erin, I agree with you. I don't regret that I read this book. And I didn't hate it either. I just found it confusing and convoluted. But I don't know that I got anything out of it. I'm glad that it's done. So I'm looking forward to this because I think this is going to be a book I enjoy a lot more. This is a generational family saga about a Korean family who I think they live in Japan at the turn of the century, and it goes through like I don't know if it goes all the way through the 1900s or only up to like a certain point. But I'm very, very excited for this because this has been on my list of things I want to read for a long while. And Sarah's already read it and told me that I'm going to love it. And I trust that she knows what I like to read. So I feel like this is going to be a book I really enjoy. It is a big book too, but I think I can get through this faster. So I don't know if I want to start it right away. I kind of want to wait until closer to the end of the month so that it's fresh in my mind for the live show. But I will be putting the reading groups up on the Discord either tonight or tomorrow morning. So look for that. I think it's like 3 sections, book 1, book 2, book 3. So I'll set it up like that. So I haven't looked to see if this is available on Scribd, but it might be. So, oh, you go ahead, Dania. Go ahead and cheat. Go ahead and buy yourself this book. I feel like this is a good one that you'll want to own anyway. So I give you permission. So anyway, this is going to be our next book. I'm excited to read it. I have a lot of things I want to get to this month. So I'm hopeful that I can make this happen without feeling like I'm scrambling like I did with the May book, which I felt like I had to cram at the end, which I always hate doing. But I really thought I could finish it faster than I ended up having to read it. It took me like a week and a half instead of just the week that I thought I could read it in. Okay, guys, so I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here. I'm like dying. It's warm in here, but also the pollen is just killing me. There's so much pollen right now, like clouds of it, and I'm not doing well with the allergies. So I'm going to wrap this up, and I will get the stuff up on the Discord either tonight or tomorrow morning so that we can get started reading Pachinko together. So I'll see you guys next time. Happy reading. Bye.